So picture this. Turkey is making a really bold move to host the world's most important climate conference in 2026. But at the very same time, its biggest trading partner, the European Union, is putting up what you could call a new carbon wall. And it could cost Turkish industries billions. It's a really high-stakes situation, and we're going to break down exactly what's going on.
All right, so here's how we're going to unpack all of this. First, we'll look at Turkey's big global ambition. Then, we'll dive into Europe's new carbon rule. After that, we'll see what's really at stake for the Turkish economy. And finally, we'll explore the country's fascinating strategy to turn this massive challenge into a real game-changing opportunity. So, first up, let's talk about the big goal. Turkey is aiming to host COP31, the UN's huge climate change conference, in 2026. Now, hosting this event isn't just about prestige or rolling out the red carpet. It's a powerful statement that the country wants to be a major player in the global green economy. Okay, but here's the catch. There's a huge hurdle that's popped up. A new European policy that is completely changing the rules of global trade. It's called the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM for short. So what exactly is this CBAM thing? Well, to put it simply, it's a carbon import tax. If a company in Turkey wants to sell something like steel or cement to anyone in the EU, they're now going to have to pay a fee, and that fee is based on the carbon emissions that were created to make that product. And this isn't some far-off idea, it's already happening. We're in a transition phase right now where it's all about reporting data. But the date you really need to remember is January 1st, 2026. That's when the financial part kicks in, and companies will have to start paying up. The clock is officially ticking. So, with this new carbon wall going up, what does it actually mean for Turkey's economy on the ground? Well, the stakes are incredibly high. To really get a handle on the risk, you first have to understand just how connected these two economies are. The European Union is Turkey's single largest trading partner. It buys a massive 41% of everything Turkey exports. And here's where the numbers get pretty staggering. In 2022 alone, about $13 billion worth of Turkish exports to the EU were in sectors that are now covered by this new carbon tax. That is a huge amount of trade that's now facing a brand new cost. And if we drill down even further, you can see this pain isn't spread out evenly. The impact is heavily concentrated in some really fundamental industries. Iron and steel are hit the hardest, with over 8 billion euros in exports. Then you've got aluminum at 4 billion euros. And cement. These are the engines of the industrial economy.
So you might be thinking this all sounds pretty bleak, right? Well, Turkey isn't just sitting back and watching this happen. The country has developed a pretty comprehensive national strategy to face this challenge head-on, and maybe even turn it into an advantage.
Their response is really built on three main pillars. First, a Green Deal action plan that basically sets the national roadmap. Second, creating their own national emissions trading system. And third, putting some serious funding behind it, like a $450 million project to help industries make that green shift. The logic behind their whole strategy, especially this plan for a national emissions trading system, or ETS, can be boiled down to one simple, really smart question. Why pay a toll to another country when you can collect it to build your own future? The choice here is pretty stark. Without its own system, Turkish companies have to pay those carbon fees directly to the EU. All that money just leaves the country. But by creating its own system, Turkey gets to keep that revenue at home and then reinvest it to fund its own green transition. Plus, they stay in control of their own policy. And all of this leads us to the real endgame here, because this plan isn't just about defense. It's not just about avoiding a penalty. It's about going on the offense and fundamentally repositioning Turkey's economy by turning this huge risk into a major strategic opportunity. You can think of it like this. CBAM compliance is basically becoming the new green passport for trade. If you want to access that massive EU market, your company now needs to prove its products meet these new environmental standards. It's become a non-negotiable ticket to get in the door. So when you lay it all out, the nation is really standing at a crossroads with two very different futures ahead of it. On one path, inaction means losing competitiveness and just sending billions of euros to the EU. But on the other path, taking proactive, strategic action could actually transform Turkey into a leader in green manufacturing, securing its most important trade relationship for decades to come. And if they pull this off, the potential payoff is just huge. We're not just talking about protecting old industries here. We're talking about building new ones. It would strengthen their COP31 bid, secure that vital EU trade, attract investment for modern economy, and ultimately position Turkey as a global green production hub for the future. And so that brings us back to the big question, the one that everything really hinges on. With such an ambitious plan, with the stakes this high, and with the clock ticking, can Turkey successfully navigate this incredible challenge and turn a major economic threat into a defining global advantage?